Gordon, you're in a new setting.
Yeah, this is Gordon spending the winter in Florida.
Oh, lucky you.
It was colder than DC this morning in Jacksonville. So
Setting. Yeah, Jacksonville's nice though, in general, on the water. All right, so do we have our commissioners here? Just waiting on Damiana. Okay, it's 7:02. Why don't we get started? All right. Thank you all for joining us for the December meeting of ANC 1C. I'm Amir Irani. I'm chair of the commission. I'd like to start with an introduction by my fellow commissioners, starting with Commissioner Chris Jackson and 1C08.
Hi, Chris Jackson, 1C08, represent the southeast section of ANC 1C.
Thanks, Chris. Why don't we just go down the line to 7 and then numerically down.
Hi, my name is Japer Bowles. I'm the ANC Commissioner for 1C07, which is the west side of the Reed Cook neighborhood.
Damiana's not here just yet. So, John?
John Sotoli, 1C04, which is an area around Walter Pierce Park.
And Ted Guthrie, 1C03, the heart of Adams Morgan between Biltmore and Wyoming and 18th and 19th.
And I'm Amir Irani. I represent 1C01, which is the southwest corner of Adams Morgan. Moving on to officers' reports. I don't have anything to report other than noting that this is our last meeting for this term. And I'm a little sad to see such turnover for the term, but excited for the new commission. I know that I've really come to enjoy working with this current commission. Certainly, it's great to get to know your neighbors, and people will say joining the ANC is a great thing to do something for your neighborhood, but it's lovely to get to know my fellow commissioners and to forge really what to me has become special and close relationships, all in volunteer service to our community. So just with that, I want to thank our departing commissioners, Commissioner Guthrie, Commissioner Zatoli, Commissioner Dendy, and Commissioner Jackson. So moving on to the Secretary's report. Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you for that, Amir, and congratulations to Fiona as well and everyone else. It's been a pleasure working with everybody. Tonight we have a DC Water presentation on the Rock Creek stem sewers. discussion from the ACLU about surveillance. DDOT will give an update on the 16th Street bus lane project. Chris Dyer will give a presentation on the private security camera rebate program, and we will be voting on a resolution supporting the decriminalization of street vending, a resolution regarding pedestrian safety at Ontario Place, resolution regarding pedestrian safety at Cliffborn Place crosswalk. And I'm not sure if this is I think this is a discussion on the SunTrust Plaza. I don't think that came out of committee, but it's also on the agenda as well.
Yep, it is a resolution. It didn't come out of committee, so we'll need a second. But there's a resolution there. So thanks, Secretary Jackson. Treasurer, Commissioner Bowles, anything to report?
Yes, we have $24,775.79 in the bank. We do have roughly $2,500 outstanding in terms of checks needing to be cashed. One of them is a grant, the other is Mary, and yes, I can, Michael Rogers. So essentially we have about $22,000 in our actual funds. Michael just asked a question. Can the treasurer share what the $2,892.50 for virtual meeting covers on November 3rd? Yes, that covers the remaining portion of virtual services that are provided by Street Justice, as well as the next portion of payment for Street Justice and virtual streaming services. Virtual and streaming services includes not only just hosting this, but also helping folks, facilitate the meeting. But also, once the meeting has been recorded, that is then sent to us and uploaded and put in a shareable file. So that is what we have spent a big portion of funding for in regards to virtual services. And it is not $3,000 a month. That is for essentially about a year's term. So it definitely is an increased expense, but it's something that we have to spend money on right now. Luckily, Councilmember Brianna Doe is on, and she, I'm sure, would love to talk more about the additional resources that ANCs, she is sponsoring for ANCs. But this is one of those types of services that ANCs regularly did not have to function and pay for. But luckily, we already had a contract for early past September. But yeah, virtual services, that is a new expenditure.
Thank you for the Treasurer's report, Commissioner Bowles. So let's go on to Commissioner announcements. And if you're chair of a committee, please do also announce your committee meeting agenda for December. Commissioner Jackson, let's start with you if you have any commissioner announcements.
No announcements from me. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Bowles?
Yes. Okay, so for the Public Services and Environment Committee, I am announcing that I'm not running for that chair position for next term, but I'm really excited to work with the committee, and thank you, John Zatoli and Commissioner Damiana as well. And the rest of the commission, we helped expend over $18,000 this year for COVID-related expenses. So thank you so much for helping us, or helping me work with clients and asking good questions. I think we did a really great job of expending that money. Just as an overview, they went for RCNA's Employment Relief Fund, Lighthouse. They gave micro grants and COVID-related relief to neighbors in the neighborhood. The bid, they received money for sanitizer stations. Platform of Hope, they received money for internet and hotspots and laptops. And then Jubilee received additional furniture and funding so they can provide a safe place to educate students. So with all of those, we pretty much pushed the barrier in the extent of the COVID emergency law. And I'm really excited that, everyone was willing to spend this money and work with us. That way we could get that relief towards our local nonprofits. Additionally, I will not be hosting a committee meeting. I'm happy to do a joint meeting if there is any additional topics to be brought up with the ABC or PZT meeting. But our meetings are typically at the end of the month, and that is around the holiday times. And it is not, from what I have seen, custom for us to have a meeting during those times. So there will be no committee meetings. I'm excited to pass the baton, and thank you so much, folks, for helping us spend ANC money on good causes.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Bowles. So that's no committee meeting for PSC this month. Okay. Commissioner Dendy, do you have an announcement?
No announcements from me. Just it's been really great to be on the ANC for my term, and I'm really excited to still be involved in the community in the coming months and years.
Great. Thank you. I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Zatoli.
Okay, in politics, they have this term, lame duck. And lately I've developed a new appreciation for the term. I mention this mainly because there are 6 new commissioners that'll be joining the ANC in January, 6 out of 8. And for tonight, I find myself mindful of those 6 new commissioners, thinking about what actions we should take tonight and what actions we should defer to January. Anything non-controversial or anything that must be addressed tonight, I'm happy to address. But if there's something that's controversial and could be discussed and resolved after January, I'm inclined to defer to the new commissioners for those matters. I appreciate if the other commissioners think about that possibility as we proceed with tonight's discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner Zatoli. Commissioner Guthrie? You're on mute.
The ABC Public Safety Committee will be next week, and there are 2 items on the agenda: the police report, and the second item is an application for a restaurant license. I think it's called Air. It's in the old district space that is above Songbird on 18th Street, and they've applied for a restaurant license and will be considering a proposed settlement agreement to sign with the licensee. I'd take the opportunity to thank everyone for the opportunity to have been a commissioner and to have worked with not just fellow commissioners, but all of the many very active people in the community over the period of time that I've been on the commission. I've really enjoyed many aspects of it. I would just ask you to be gentle with the members of the community, to be gentle with the new commissioners as they figure out how to do the job that there are no really good written instructions for, and to try and remember in this challenging time that we are in this together. Let's try to work together. Let's try to be gentle and respectful of each other as we figure things out.
Thank you, Commissioner Guthrie, for your, as always, wise words. And so I don't have any announcements other than to say that the PZT committee, the Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee, will be meeting on December 16th at 7 p.m. There is a single agenda item where we will review the designs for a new commissary kitchen at 2412 18th Street in the rear. That's the alley structure. So there'll be a commercial kitchen there, and the applicant will discuss the design and business in the context of historic preservation review. So having said all that, I'd like to hand the meeting over to our esteemed council member who has joined us for tonight. Councilmember Nadeau, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Chairman, it's my pleasure to be here with you all tonight. The last meeting of the year is always bittersweet as we say farewell to some commissioners who will not be returning. But on the other hand, it's kind of nice to get the business behind us for the year, isn't it? This has been a humdinger of a year. But as a former commissioner myself, I can remember the way it felt at the end of a period. And I know that you all have done some tremendous work together as a body, and that, you know, the next grouping of you will certainly gel and work together just as well. But it's always tough to say goodbye to our colleagues. I want to thank Commissioner Guthrie, Commissioner Zatoli, Commissioner Dendy, and Commissioner Jackson for your service. ANC truly is the purest form of public service, given that it's completely voluntary, given that you're elected by your 2,000 closest neighbors, and that the work is tireless and thankless. And so we all thank you for your service, but as your council member, I want to thank you for being my colleagues and partners in the work that we do serving the people of Adams Morgan. I know that you will not be gone from our dialogue and community, that you'll still be participating and contributing just in different ways. So I thank you, and I look forward to working with you in whatever you choose to pursue in the future. It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember, for so eloquently articulating those thoughts, and I couldn't agree more. Yeah. So thanks for joining us tonight and for that lovely send-off. So let's the public announcements. We have we've allotted 2 minutes per person. So just you can raise your hand if you're on Zoom, or you can dial *9 if you're dialing in. Kristen Barden.
Hi, good evening. I wanted to thank everybody who was able to, all of the commissioners who were able to attend our launch of the holidays in Adams Morgan on November 20th. We started out the holiday season with a little bit of holiday cheer. We've been able to, thanks to the donations from Throughline and from a couple other development companies in the neighborhood, including Bernstein and Stream Realty, have been able to construct those boxes that you've all have seen by now in BB&T Plaza. I know we reviewed the designs and we appreciate the ANC's support. Many of the commissioners, both new and old, were able to join us for the launch on November 20th. So it was a great event, and I think people are really enjoying the boxes. We also did some pole wraps and some flitter lights on the light poles that you've probably seen around the neighborhood by now. So, but thanks to the generosity of Throughline and some of our other partners, we've had very little expenses with this project. So it's been really great to see everybody come together. And I wanted to just remind people that the carolers that were there on November 20th are going to come back. And they'll be masked again and mic'd so that you'll be able to hear them. If it doesn't rain this Saturday, they'll be there from 12 to 2. If not, they'll be there on Sunday from 12 to 2. And then the carolers will be back again on Thursday the 10th. It's an evening show from 5 to 7. On Thursday the 17th, again from 5 to 7. And then Saturday the 19th will be their last performance for the season from 12 to 2 on that Saturday the 19th. So please come out and enjoy the holiday caroling and take as many pictures as you want of you and your dogs and kids in the Instagrammable boxes. So we're really thrilled that we were able to get that all together this year. So I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kristen. Ali Bobak from our council member's office.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we sure can.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Ali Bobak. I'm the Constituent Services Coordinator for Councilmember Nadeau, who we just heard from. For those listening, my direct number is 202-531-5186, and my email is abobak@dccouncil.us. It has been a busy week for the DC Council, and even though it's only Wednesday, so I wanted to give a couple updates. Several bills that the council member authored and championed were voted on yesterday, with final votes on December 15th, which is also the final meeting of the council period. So just wanted to highlight three of them. One is the Department of Buildings Establishment Act of 2020, which establishes as a subordinate agency within the executive branch, the Department of Buildings. And that department would be charged with promoting the health, safety, and quality of life of residents and visitors in DC by reviewing proposed plans for technical sufficiency, issuing permits, inspecting the built environment, regulating land use and development, and enforcing regulations and codes governing building construction, housing conditions, building maintenance, and building safety. Also, Councilmember Nadeau authored the Office of the Ombudsperson for Children Establishment Amendment Act, which establishes an office for the Ombudsperson for Children as an independent legislative agency tasked with improving the outcomes for CFSA children, so that's children in foster care, by holding agencies that impact CFSA children accountable for fulfilling their responsibilities under the law. The office was designated in a way that its mission, scope, and duties could grow over time, including the broader issues affecting DC children, throughout the creation of additional agency-focused ombuds. And last but not least, the Advisory Neighborhood Commission's Participation and Planning and 19 Development Amendment Act of 2020, which Councilmember Nadeau authored with Councilmember Robert White. And this legislation gives ANCs great weight when reviewing comp plan and resources to hire economic development staff to assist ANCs when negotiating with developers. So again, the final vote on those three will be December 15th, which is the final meeting of the council period. Also keep your eyes open because the chairman will be announcing the committee assignments for the next council period in the coming weeks before new members of the DC Council are sworn in on January 2nd. And finally, I have two save the dates. Councilmember Nadeau will be having a telephone town hall the 10th of December, and we will be having a community safety town hall, which will be on Zoom the 14th of December. Registration should be on brianneknadeau.com starting tomorrow. I can be sure to send those to ANC commissioners. The telephone town hall also dials you if we do have your direct line. So I know that was a lot. Again, my direct line, in case anybody has questions, is 202-531-5186. And my email is abobak@dccouncil.us. And just wanted to say a quick thank you for your service as well to Commissioners Guthrie, Zatoli, Dendy, and Jackson. It's been a pleasure working with all of you.
Thanks, Ali. Nick Rowland, RCNA.
Hi, this is Nick with the Reed Cook Neighborhood Association. At our last meeting, RCNA authorized an additional $10,000 for our COVID-19 relief fund. Those in the neighborhood who have lost their jobs due to the public health crisis and are seeking assistance, please visit our site at reedcook-dc.org to apply for the relief fund. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Nick. Okay. Seeing no other hands up for public announcements, so why don't we move to the DC Water presentation on the Rock Creek STEM sewers. So we have Emmanuel Briggs from DC Water.
I'm here.
Okay.
So I'm here. Thanks for inviting me, Chairperson Arani. I'm outside, so I'm being responsible with my mask and my hat on. But thanks for inviting us to this meeting to talk about our Rock Creek STEM Sewers Condition Assessment Project. I've got a few folks from our team online with me. I I will go through that list. I have Ella Garcia. She is the project manager or the PM for phase 1 of the project. There's 2 phases. I have Ms. Bethel Abate. She is the PM for phase 2. I have Mr. Dustin Dvorak. He is the consultant PM for both phases. I also have Gatachu Melsu. He is the manager, the senior manager of our planning branch. So I believe that Ella and Dustin and Gatachu will all be taking turns either presenting and or answering questions once I shut up. But I just want to again thank you for inviting us to the meeting. We understand that following circulation of information about this project on October 2nd, there was a little bit of buzz in the community about the project and what it's about, one of which was ANC 1C, which is why we're here to give you a really brief presentation, just a handful of slides on what we're doing, what we've done, and what's still coming up, and to address any questions that you have. And with that said, I will hand things over to Ella Garcia.
So thank you, Emmanuel. Your colleagues are all presenters now, so please feel free to, Ms. Garcia, feel free to unmute and go ahead.
You might be still trying to.
Ms. Garcia, we can't hear you. It's possible you're muted on your side.
All right, hi, this is Dustin Dvorak. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we sure can. Dustin.
Perfect. So I guess Ella's having some technical issues, so I'll kind of step in here and fill in. I'm trying to share my screen. Can everybody see it?
We see it. Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So what we're here to talk about, this will just take 5 minutes or so, is us as a consultant, I work for Greeley and Hanson. We do a lot of the sewer infrastructure planning and design for DC Water. We are really in the second half of the year here, we're doing some work for DC Water where we're evaluating the condition of sewers in and around Rock Creek. This is something that DC Water does regularly throughout the city. But this second half of the year here, they've kind of moved from different areas and are now focusing on in the sewers in and around Rock Creek. So just a quick agenda. It's literally 5 slides here, but we'll talk about the work that we're going to perform and that we have performed over the last couple months, where we're actually looking, what type of equipment or personnel you might see out in the field, and then ultimately what we're going to do with our findings, what we discover in the field. So as I mentioned, we're looking at sewers in and around Rock Creek, and I'll go back to that map in a second. The DC Water has routinely done internal inspections where they stick a camera in the sewer, the manholes, and kind of see what the internal condition of the sewers and manholes are. For this work, we're looking at kind of the outside of the structures. So as you can imagine, when you got a camera in the sewer, you can't really see what's going on outside. So we're gonna have crews viewing the outside of the sewers, looking at anything that's exposed, anything that's above ground. And we're really doing this to proactively make sure that the sewers are being maintained. We find and fix problems before they occur. And ultimately, the goal of this is to provide a higher level of service for the entire community. So there's a big long list of sewers and trunk sewers and all this interceptors on here. But really what this map is trying to show here is, it's a pretty comprehensive evaluation of the main sewers in and around Rock Creek. It's about 27 miles of sewers and over 700 manholes. So it's going to take us, we started back in September, and it's ultimately going to take us through the end of the year here before we can get through it all and make some rehab recommendations if needed to DC Water. So what are we doing? We broke this up into 2 phases. So phase 1, we review all of the existing data that DC Water's collected over the last few years or so. That information really gives us the history of what's going on inside the pipes. During phase 1, we're also sending 2 different crews out, and actually they finished a few weeks ago. 2-man crews, basically walking the entire sewer alignment, looking for exposed sewers and manholes, and then filling out our condition assessment forms that record basically, is the sewer or the manhole in good condition? Are there any defects with it? What are some potential fixes that may be needed for it? And because, they're walking through the woods for the most part and in and around Rock Creek, it's all foot traffic. They've got, some manhole hooks to open manhole lids if they needed, site maps, tablets to fill out the inspection forms. It's a really pretty non-invasive field work compared to what we would normally do. Phase 2, which we actually started Tuesday, that involves going back and confirming some of the connectivity issues we found out in the field, and performing like detailed manhole inspections. So when we went out in phase 1, we really just kind of did a visual inspection of the manholes and pipes. Some of the things that we noted required us to take a deeper look of kind of what's going on inside, and we may not have had that historical data that DC Water collects. So we're sending a couple people out again over the next couple weeks here to just open the manhole lids and confirm, are the defects that we're seeing on the outside present on the inside, and vice versa. So that I think we're looking at maybe 30 manholes. So it should go pretty quick. It should only take a couple weeks. And we're confirming connectivity between some of the sewers, because as you can imagine, a lot of these sewers were installed, 20, 50, 100 years ago. And there aren't necessarily great records on how everything was built and constructed. So there are a couple locations where we're confirming what the mapping is showing us by opening manholes and taking a deeper look inside where the pipes are coming in and where we think they're going. So ultimately, what are we doing with all this information? We are going to, depending on what type of defects we find, or if we find any defects, we'll recommend potential rehab for some of the pipes or some of the infrastructure out there. Those recommendations will ultimately get rolled up into DC Water's capital improvement projects, and prioritized based on kind of how bad the defects are or how immediate the need is to go in and fix them. A lot of times what we find out there is just some minor superficial cracks that you'll see in pipes. And it may look like a crack, but ultimately it's nothing that is compromising the structure or integrity of the pipe or manhole. So those kind of could potentially get delayed because they're not necessarily an environmental or a structural issue that needs to be fixed immediately. We'll also look and plan any additional inspections that may be needed. There may be cases where we find a pipe or a manhole where we've done an external visual inspection, but we don't have the corresponding internal inspection. So that may be a recommendation to go out and have DC Water collect that information. And then, looking at all 27 miles of pipe, it really provides DC Water justification to seek funding to make improvements to these sewers if they're needed, and really continue to maintain the system and make sure that it's providing a high level of service for all the customers and residents in the area. So with that, if there are any questions, I'll open it up. Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dustin. Let me, let's go over to our, so you can just raise your hand if there are questions. Commissioners, do you have any questions? members of the community? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Emmanuel, for assembling the team
You're welcome,
to
sir.
come give.
If there are any questions after the meeting, feel free to certainly you can shoot me an email any time of the day or night. I respond around the clock. So if there are any questions that folks do have following this meeting, we will certainly, I'll get with the team, coordinate some responses and get those back to you.
Great.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.
And next we have the ACLU of the district wanting to give a presentation. So if you could just raise your hand so that we can get you voted to panelist. Do you have anyone from the ACLU on the line?
Yeah, Amir, yes, I believe I elevated the person who's identified from ACLU a while ago in the chat.
Okay. I don't see them, but go ahead. You can go ahead. Feel free to unmute yourself and begin the presentation.
They seem AFK. Maybe we could do the 16th Street bus.
How do we do that? So we'll swing back around to the presentation from the ACLU. Springworth, I see you there. And is Kelly also on?
Yeah, I believe Kelly's on too.
Yes, she is.
Okay, yeah, great. Perfect. All right. So yeah, please feel free to start the presentation on the 16th Street bus lane project. Hey, Spring, you're muted.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Spring Worth. I am the project manager for the 16th Street Northwest Bus Lanes project. I have been working on the project for the past 4 years, and I work at DDOT. And there are 2 other people from DDOT that are also present. Kelly, who's our community engagement specialist, and Othman, who is our design engineer. I came to the meeting back in July, and I don't have the new information that I have to share tonight are the designs that are up on our website. And we've been going to the ANCs along the project corridor and sharing the designs. For those of you who may not be familiar with the project, I'll just give you a little bit of background information about what the purpose and need of the project is, what the project boundaries are, and then I'll share with you the designs that we have on the website, along with the pamphlet that you saw previously that we've updated. So the 16th Street Northwest Bus Lanes project is approximately 3-mile long corridor on 16th Street. It starts at Arkansas Avenue and extends downtown to H Street. And the purpose and need of the project is to improve the bus performance and reliability along 16th Street. 16th Street is one of the busiest bus corridors in the district. Pre-COVID, we were seeing approximately 20,000 daily riders on the bus, and there's been complaints over the years about bus bunching, buses passing passengers by because they're too full. And so we've taken on this project to really address that issue and to improve the bus performance. This year, we successfully completed the designs and we plan to begin construction early next year. The comment period for the project is over because we've completed the designs, but we did want to come today to let you know that the designs for the corridor have been completed and we are moving forward with construction. And with that, I'm going to share my screen with the project website. 1 second here. It's always a little bit, it's like the internet. And I also want to show all windows. All right, just bear with me a second. Here we go. I think this is it. And then I'll share that. Can you see that?
Yes.
Someone can see. Okay, good. So this is the project website. And if you go to the document library and you go here to the pamphlet, it'll give an overview of what I just was discussing about the project in terms of what the purpose and need of the project is, and then what the key elements are of the project, what we're doing in terms of bus operations and bus stop consolidation, where the bus lanes are along the corridor. And there's been, we held a public meeting and we got consent buy-in from the community back in 2018. And there's been only 2 small changes from the last big public meeting. And that was in the design. We originally thought that we would put in hatched bus lanes, so sort of striped, see like red and then black and then red and then black. But there's been new direction. We are going to put in full colored red bus lanes, similar to what you see in other places in the district, like on Georgia Avenue, also on H&I streets downtown and MLK. And that's the new standard that you'll see throughout the country. So we are putting in full red bus lanes. And then the other changes that the PM peak period in the planning study, we said that we would extend the PM peak by 1 hour from 4. So today the PM peak period parking restrictions on 16th Street are from 4 to 6:30. And we said we would extend it by 1 hour to 7:30. But after evaluating the traffic operations to both benefit motorists and also buses along the corridor, we adjusted the time. It still is 1 hour, but instead of 4 to 7:30, it will be 3:30 to 7 p.m. And this pamphlet provides like a general overview of the project. And then back out of here. If you go back here, you'll see the final design plans. And that's more details in terms of what the, this is slowly uploading, but specifically what we will be doing along the corridor. And you can take a look at this. And it shows like the signage and the full red bus lanes that I mentioned, and the signs. And most of this project is striping and signage construction. There's 2 areas where we'll be moving curb around the 16th Harvard Columbia intersection to accommodate the bus lane and also the U to V street block. And then as far as more project details, so if you wanted to take a deeper dive beyond the pamphlet and learn more about the project and how we arrived at the design, you could go to the public meeting presentations from July and August in 2018 and also in 2017. And they're both narrated, so you can click on the presentation and actually listen to it along with the script if you'd like to read it. And then for anybody who is on the phone, I don't know if anybody called into this Zoom, but the website is 16th TH Street, all spelled out, nwbus.com. And that's where you can go and to the document library. I'll also put the link to the website in the chat. So with that, I can open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Spring. Could you just go over the changes at Harvard and Columbia in 16th?
Sure. So,
and then Kristen has requested this for you to also go over the changes at Irving and 16th. Those are,
Irving.
I mean, those
Okay.
are pretty busy intersections.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just make sure. Let me make this also a little bit bigger. So basically what we're doing at 16th and Harvard is that 16th Harvard and Columbia Road is where we're adding a left turn. So during the peak periods, if you're going southbound on 16th Street, I can also share this here before I go back to the design. So we are restricting some left turns at 16th and Irving Street. So the Irving Street, and this is all here, you can refer to it, it's in the pamphlet. Not much has changed in the past 2 years other than the two things that I pointed out about the red paint and the PM parking. But other than that, this pamphlet is the same pamphlet that was shared 2 years ago. So the Irving Street Northwest, the left turn, if you're going down 16th Street, going southbound, heading towards downtown during the AM and PM, the left turn will be restricted. So if you're going down 16th Street and you want to take a left onto Irving to go to Target, that won't be permitted during the AM and PM peak periods. So we are adding a new left turn at Harvard Street. In order to add the left turn at Harvard Street and to accommodate a bus lane, we are expanding the road at that intersection at the 16th Harvard Columbia Road intersection. I can pull up the designs and go to that intersection. Let me just make it a little bigger. You could take a look at this closely so you can see. Let me just see where we are. We're at L Street. And O Street, so we're downtown. Corcoran, further up. And that's essentially what we're doing at that one location. And like I'm looking for this, like I mentioned, that's one of the two areas along the 2.7 mile corridor where we are expanding the curb. Irving. So this is 16th and Irving. There will be a bus lane going southbound during the AM. The bus lanes are in operation. They're peak period, peak direction bus lanes. And then just make sure get to the part. Okay. And this is the intersection that you were referring to. So the Columbia Road, Mount Pleasant, like we're adding this crosswalk here because the Zoom, let me see if I can move it so I can see. Okay, there we go. So this is, so we are adding a left turn at Harvard. This is Harvard Street because the left turn at Irving will be restricted. And in order to have the bus lane be continuous through this intersection, we are modifying the islands, the concrete islands that are here to accommodate a bus lane. So to make enough space to put in a bus lane in the southbound direction and also to allow space for left turning vehicles onto Harvard Street. Amir, I think you're muted. I don't know if you were saying something.
Thank you. for that. Questions from commissioners? Other questions? Okay, members of the public. Zach?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very excited about this project, especially if Metro is cutting service. It's more essential that buses move efficiently as possible. And Ms. Worth, thank you so much for your continued outreach. Last time you joined us, our ANC raised a number of issues regarding this 16th Street Harvard-Columbia intersection. I know that ANC 1D has also raised these issues. I'm looking at this picture, and I appreciate you being on this page right now. I just have some specific questions. One is, how does DDOT intend to align the lights to avoid congestion crossing both east and west at Columbia? And also that left turn from 16th Street to Harvard, to make sure that the traffic isn't blocking. I guess that's Columbia Road when the lights change.
That's a good question. Our traffic signals team, our chief engineer who works on traffic signals, worked closely on this design. I could follow up with you with details about the signaling, but we have looked at closely, we did like extensive traffic analysis to look at what the impacts would be during the peaks with the left turn. And we added this left turn onto Harvard Street to accommodate traffic because of the impacts of traffic congestion at Irving Street during the peak. So this was really to help vehicles move through on 16th Street.
Yeah, I would really appreciate engaging with your traffic specialist, because a year and a half ago, our ANC and 1D, on the other side of Harvard, have reached out to DDOT about the problems at the Columbia Road, Harvard 16th Street intersection, especially about traffic flow. And so we would definitely like to see how those have been addressed. The other thing I'm wondering is if a right turn onto Columbia Road from southbound 16th Street, is that allowed, or do vehicles need to go into this flip lane? I noticed that there isn't a straight only arrow in the bus lane area of 16th Street north of Columbia Road.
Vehicles are permitted to take a right turn generally from the bus lane. I also have the design engineer on the line, and he could also answer that question. Othman, if you want to chime in, but generally vehicles are permitted to take a right turn from the bus lane.
Sure, but generally there isn't a slip lane, and that is another
right, exactly.
challenge.
Yeah.
The other thing, and while your engineer is thinking about that, I'm just trying to understand the I guess half a block up at the intersection of Argonne or Little Harvard. I'm trying to understand if these one-way do not enter signs were removed, or how, or what's happening at that intersection. I noticed that currently there is not a no turn on red sign from 16th Street onto Argonne Place, even though that's where Mount Pleasant Street traffic cuts right across, and so a right turn on red there would be quite dangerous.
So taking a left from here onto this street?
If you're southbound on 16th Street, right above where your arrow is,
Yeah.
So
and taking a right here and then taking the right?
If you were to make a U-turn onto Mount Pleasant Street, that's one thing. But if you were to turn right across
and go down here,
Street,
yeah,
that's the exact same time as Mount Pleasant has a green light.
Yeah, there's some signaling changes that we're definitely making along the corridor with the addition of this this crosswalk, because there's no crosswalk, and now it's always green going northbound, and then you have to wait for the signal to take the left. But I get what you're saying. Taking a right on from 16th Street going southbound and going straight as if you're going to go down to the zoo, right?
Correct.
Take a right
Correct.
and go down. And then the concern is the conflict with Mount Pleasant.
Right, because when 16th Street South has a red light, that's when Mount Pleasant Street has a green light.
And how is that? And how is that
crossed.
different from today?
Today, it's not. That's how it is, and it's not how it should be. It's not safe.
Oh, okay. So your concern is that is DDOT going to address an existing issue today adjacent that's going on right now as part of this project? So let me just make sure I get your questions correct, because that's separate from this. This project is not addressing that issue, but that could be a separate issue that DDOT looks into. So
sure, and I'm just looking at all the signage around here. So
so at 16th and Argonne. So the concern is taking a right turn, southbound right, onto Argonne and conflicts with Mount Pleasant. And then you also said that, and you reached out to the signals team.
No, I haven't reached out. I mean, this is a resolution that this ANC put forward a year and a half ago. So
okay, so ANC 1C and 1D had a resolution about the Columbia Road. Is that what you said? The signal timing?
Correct.
On Columbia Road. And the preferences? The preference was for the Columbia Road, or like the balancing of the Columbia Road traffic with 16th Street?
Oh, I couldn't off the top of my head tell you what the preference voiced was, but as of now, there's a lot of backup on eastbound Columbia Road, which crosses over 16th Street, because the light timing is not well balanced east to west.
Okay, so there's concern about the eastbound traffic going towards Columbia or 18th Street, like going towards Adams Morgan, other side of 16th Street. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because it's a one-way street, so.
I'm sorry for taking up a lot of time with this, but I appreciate you being here, and so I'm using the opportunity of having you here.
Yeah, this is not, I mean, we're happy to help. I can bring this back to the, this is not part of this project, but it is a separate issues that are adjacent to the project corridor that I can raise the issue with the signals team and share your concerns with them.
Sure. I'm just noticing this little arrow sign that says Columbia Road to the right, which suggests to me that you're trying to drive traffic that's turning right onto Columbia Road or westbound onto Columbia Road into the slip lane, but I just can't tell if that's the fact. But I've taken enough time, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to address the first question about the southbound right turn from 16th onto Columbia. As you can see here on the island, it's going to be adjusted. It's going to be much thinner to allow for enough space for the bus lane, and we're also going to be getting rid of the front end of it when you're going southbound. Can you move there, Spring, a little bit to the south of where your cursor is now, a little bit north? No, yes, so right there, the island. That
move up a little bit so that people can see. All right. Yep,
right there. So we're going to be getting rid of the tip of the island, which is going to make it possible for cars going southbound to get into the slip lane and make the right to avoid getting onto the bus lane. I think that's going to be a much better situation than it is currently.
So thank you. So if I'm understanding that, then if you want to turn right, you need to go into the slip lane.
No, I mean, you can make it from both, but it's much easier for everybody to just get through the slip lane. We don't want to make it, we don't want to, I guess, prohibit the right turn from the bus lane. But, encourage people to not be on the bus lane, obviously, and just use the slip lane because it's much easier. That's why in front of the other island, the one right before that, Spring. Can you please go there where we have the dashes? Yeah, the dash red means that there's a quote unquote conflict between buses and cars, which means there's an interaction. So if you're a car trying to make a right turn into Columbia, you're going to be going into this area here where there's the red dashes to get through to the slip lane.
And that's all I would encourage, is that in order to turn right, you be in the slip lane. Otherwise, It seems like you have from 16th Street and from the slip lane, cars turning right and conflicting with each other.
Yes, no, that's completely correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that input.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you, Zach. Do we have other questions from commissioners, members of the public? Hoffman and Spring, thanks for joining us tonight. Kelly as well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
And for those that didn't see in the chat, the Hawk signal, the crosswalk at Calhoun and 16th will be the projected completion is spring of 2021 there.
Hey, Amir, I just had one question.
Sure.
Hey, Spring, I asked you in, I think it was July, about automated enforcement. And I saw the press release that you guys are going to try a camera at Georgia and Bryant Northwest. Will this project have any automated enforcement when it's installed?
Yeah, it's been part of the plan for us to have automated enforcement along the 16th Street corridor. And the district is undergoing a pilot with that's the press release that you saw, on Georgia Avenue, to take a look at that and understand how it works. And yes, this was a goal of the project from the planning study that was completed in April 2016. And we're still moving forward with that.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so well, thank you guys for joining. So from the ACLU, Gordon, was that figured out who that is?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I misidentified. That person is speaking about the camera rebate program.
Okay, why don't we, if I didn't see a hand go up for the ACLU, so Christopher Dyer, go right ahead. Let's hear about the camera rebate program, please.
I apologize for the being in the dark. I haven't quite figured out lighting. I'm going to try to share a screen because this will be the first time I've ever done this, sharing screen. This is incredibly exciting. And let's see, will this work? Does everyone see a PowerPoint presentation on the sleeve?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. This is very exciting and high tech. Anyway, thank you very much for having me, and Ted for inviting me to make this presentation. I also want to echo my congratulations and thanks to the ANC commissioners who are finishing their terms. I served as an ANC commissioner in Logan for 4 years, and I can understand the excitement and joy and potential wonderful aggravation that incurs. So I thank you and salute you for your service. For those of you who don't know, I'm Christopher Dyer. I'm with the Office of the Victim Services and Justice Grant. I administer the Mayor's Private Security Camera Incentive Program, which offers a rebate for the installation of cameras. And there we go. We have a couple of slides that are all-purpose slides. The program launched in 2016, with the goals of reducing crime and assisting law enforcement. To date, we've issued over 8,500 rebates. We've had 20,000 cameras installed by residents and businesses and nonprofits, and have issued over $300 million, $3 million in rebates. 300 million would be a bit excessive, but 3 million has been fun. We are averaging anywhere, we still are getting applications by the bushel. And we also, in 2017, we launched a voucher program. Residents who have public assistance can apply to have a security system installed at their residence at no cost. The Department of Aging and Community Living also has a program through their Safe at Home where they install free cameras for seniors. The basics of the program are we issue you a rebate of up to 200, to get the rebate, you buy cameras and install them on your property and apply. You can get up to $200 per camera. the maximum rebate is $500 for residential property and up to $750 for businesses, nonprofits, and religious institutions. So basically, if you buy a 2-camera system, you get up to $400 back. If you buy and install 3 or more cameras, you can get up to $500 back. There are no limits to the number of cameras that you can install. We do not judge if we see 16 cameras in one system, which I think is the most I've seen on a residential, but the maximum is $500 total. As you can see, the steps are laid out very nicely. You purchase, install, register your camera online with the police department, and apply to submit your application. Very important, well, the cameras, once you register the cameras with the MPD, you are not giving them direct access to your cameras. We don't have the bandwidth or the interest on monitoring 20,000 cameras across the city, but what you're doing is you're basically letting MPD know that your cameras are there in case there is a crime or an incident, and they can request footage. But very important, we're not actively monitoring your cameras for you, nor do we really have the bandwidth to do that. After you apply, we do an inspection to verify the cameras are installed unless proof of installation is provided. I get to do that. It's kind of fun. I've been all across the city several times in the last 5 years, and it's really impressive to see how things are changing in our great city. And after that, my contact information is here. The number on the screen is our desk line, although we are living at work. So if you leave a message there, you will more than likely get a phone call back from me from my cell phone. We are all working remotely still in our agency due to COVID, but we are actively accepting applications and processing them. On a normal time, it takes us up to 45 business days to process. Unfortunately, due to COVID, our processing time is a little bit slower, depending on what our schedule, what our other work is at the time. But we are out doing it. We encourage you to apply. It's a great program. We have had footage used to solve. Please don't tell me that just showed up. Lots of. I'm getting called. Anyway, sorry. We are getting lots of people to participate. We've had footage used to solve homicides. We've also had footage used to exonerate suspects in crimes as well. So it works out very well. Are there any questions that we have about the program?
It's a great program. Thanks, Chris, for presenting it. I know it's been around for a few years. We got one question from Peter Wood.
Hi, I'll be quick. I just have a question because I was talking with some neighbors recently about similar issues, which I don't know if they went through this program, but at least in one building, they have cameras installed and they've been dealing with package theft, which I imagine is going to be pretty common in many places the next 3 weeks. But they have footage of things, but that hasn't really been helpful. I mean, this might be a hard question, maybe out of your realm, but I was just curious if you have an experience just kind of dealing with that type of situation and what you'd recommend. It's a hard question.
I'm not with the police department, so I don't really directly handle.
They've talked to the police too. I'm just curious your perspective.
But I have heard great stories like a guy had some packages stolen off his front porch. He flagged down an officer. They showed the footage and they caught the guy. Mm-hmm. And it turned out he had dog costumes in his package that was stolen, but it was important. I mean, these are very important things. We've also had people catch dogs using their bathrooms as public toilets. We've also had footage used in homicide. So it all is hit or miss. Once the footage is shared, it is deployed. It is sent out it's deployed across the city to all, to all folks across the city. So whether they catch someone or not, it's really depending on if the footage is helpful. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Peter. And Alan?
Yeah. Hi, Chris. It's Alan Roth. Good to see you.
Hey, Alan, how are you?
How are you? From one non-technical person to another.
Oh, God, yeah.
To acknowledge it. One of the reasons I haven't gotten into this is, again, because I'm a fairly non-technical person.
Right.
I've heard different stories from different people about the issue of connecting the camera or cameras to a computer and how long, whether or not you have to have the computer constantly on, how long the computer stores the footage for. Does it stay for only 24 hours? Or do you have to keep it running constantly, et cetera? How much storage does it take up, et cetera? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah. So here's the deal. In the old days, you had to run your computer, but right now, most camera systems have cloud-based storage. So you don't have to keep it on a computer. It's automatically on the cloud. Like, I don't know, again, I really want to be very clear that I'm not endorsing a specific product or camera, but if you've seen the ads for the Ring camera, all of their footage is stored on the cloud. All of the Nest stuff that's done by Google is done on the cloud. Arlo is another major system that is done on the cloud. A lot of the other wireless outdoor cameras have DVRs that record footage. So nothing is really being kept on a computer anymore. But you then use your smartphone or tablet to access the footage. So it's gotten a lot different in the last 5 or 10 years. You can also wire your cameras to a DVR if you really wanted to have fun and excitement. And I imagine that especially with some of the nice older houses in Adams Morgan, Mount Pleasant, and the Colorama, that really would go over very well. Not. So, take a look. I've heard that they're relatively easy to install, but that being said, I do want to qualify that I once shorted out a smoke detector trying to change the battery. So I am not the technical expert on how to do these things. I do know how to call an installer though.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I don't see any other hands up.
Hey, just one quick question. You mentioned, Christopher, that this rebate does not compel people to give a direct line to DC government.
Right, exactly.
If a crime were to happen,
yes,
and the household cameras were, likely to pick up some activity, are those rebate takers, are they compelled to give that footage to MPD?
They are not.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
They're not compelled to get a rebate. There is always a possibility, and we hate using these words in public, that footage could get subpoenaed, like any other footage, but it is not a requirement to get the rebate that you hand over footage with MPD asks. And quite frankly and honestly, once we process a rebate, we are not really in the business of trying to take it back because it requires a lot of paperwork. I'm kidding about that, but I mean, it's not something I really want to try to do. So.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, by the way.
Great questions. Thanks for joining the meeting, Chris.
Welcome. And I'm going to log out. Again, all my contact information is on the web at ovsjg.dc.gov. Feel free to call or email or send a smoke signal. We love questions, and especially now that we're all locked in our homes, I love talking on the phone with people even more than normal. So feel free to call, leave messages, and we look forward to you participating. Have a great evening. Keep up the great work you guys are doing in ANC 1C.
Thanks, Chris.
With that, I'm departing.
So moving to our consent agenda item, we just have one thing on the consent agenda to approve November meeting minutes. So unless there's any objection, I'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the November meeting minutes, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? All right. And going to our regular agenda, we have just a handful of items on the Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee section of the agenda. So we'll start with the resolution supporting the decriminalization of street vending. This resolution did come out of committee. So, it came out of committee unanimous in its recommendation that the ANC pass the resolution. What this does is it removes criminal penalties for a violation, for a street vending violation. And it does also ask that the DC Council hold a public hearing on a bill to decriminalize it, and that the process to obtain street vending licenses be streamlined. Having said that, the resolution is online at anc1c.org. If you click through to our agenda, you can see it there. If there's any questions from commissioners or members of the public, please raise your hand. Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor of the resolution, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? All right. Got another unanimous vote. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, a resolution regarding pedestrian safety, the support from this ANC for a traffic safety assessment at the intersection of Ontario Place and Adams Mill Road Northwest. This also came out of committee, unanimous in its recommendation to that the full ANC support this resolution. It, in addition to support for the traffic safety assessment at that intersection, it recommends adding a hawk pedestrian traffic signal there. So, any questions, comments from commissioners or members of the public? This is also available online, just as all of our resolutions are on our agenda. Hearing none, I'll wait just a moment. Okay, hearing none, I'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the resolution as indicated or as I've described, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any against?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right, another 6-0. The next item on our agenda is a resolution regarding pedestrian safety at Cliffburn Place and Calvert Street. This is similar to the last resolution. It's requesting a traffic safety assessment there and a request for DDOT to evaluate the timing of the signals nearby. So this came out of committee, unanimous in its recommendation that the full ANC pass this. So questions from commissioners, questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I move to a vote. All those in favor of the resolution as described, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? Great. All right. And the last item under PZT, a resolution on the SunTrust Plaza litigation that requests Attorney General Carl Racine and other DC government officials actively pursue.
You want to hear the SunTrust Plaza discussion, dear?
Actively pursue the litigation to establish an easement for public use of a portion of the plaza. Commissioner Guthrie, would you like to introduce the resolution?
Yes, this resolution came from the plaintiffs in the litigation, and it is basically asking that Racine exercise his abilities as Attorney General to step in and go forward with the litigation. One thing that I'd like to point out is that the resolution that is posted that everyone has seen, there is a friendly amendment that has been proposed that is okay with me, that the final, be it further resolved, that goes on and speaks to other district officials, including the mayor, executive agencies, council member, other members of the council. It goes on to recite a whole bunch of different possibilities, be stricken from the resolution so that it ends with, be it further resolved, ANC 1C specifically requests Carl Racine, the district attorney general, use the full powers of his office to actively defend in all applicable legal forms the easement by public dedication on the plaza, and to ensure that the ongoing public easement litigation is resolved on the merits. There had been quite a bit of discussion about timing on this, particularly since this is a lame duck session. One of the factors that led to this resolution coming forward and to the deletion of that last paragraph is that there is a show cause hearing that is currently scheduled for January 1. Excuse me, January 12, I believe it is. That is a show cause with the DC Superior Court to determine whether or not the temporary restraining order against raising and further doing construction activity on the site be held in abeyance until the determination has been made on the public easement, and to dismiss the underlying litigation. Because of the timing for that, it's important that ANC 1C weigh in now, because the shortness of time for turnaround by the Attorney General's office is such that if we waited until the first meeting of the new year, basically there wouldn't be time for them to make a reasonable determination about this and be able to be part of that process. And if we are successful in avoiding, if the plaintiffs are successful in avoiding the dismissal, all of the rest of the stuff that is mentioned in the last paragraph that's been stricken would be put off till some future time that there is a determination on the easement, so that it's not something that is necessary to be dealt with at this meeting and could be dealt with by the incoming ANC at such time as appropriate. So I need a second on the motion itself.
Could we just take some questions first?
It needs to have a second to be in front of the commission for consideration.
I second the motion as changed with the friendly amendment.
Great. So, and the friendly amendment, just to be clear, is removing the entire last, be it further resolved, that entire paragraph. Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So questions from members of the public? Questions from commissioners? Okay. I expected.
So there's
a couple hands up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me go over to those. There we go. Mr. James.
Hi, this is Dennis James, president of Calorama Citizens Association. The only reason I wanted to speak was just to say that we are here to answer any questions or help, provide information to anyone asking a question if it's not something that the ANC knows or it's not in the resolution. So I believe that one of KCA's legal advisors, Cynthia Poles, is on the line. I believe that folks from Adams Morgan for Reasonable Development are probably also monitoring the meeting. So that's all. I might want to react to or give some information if someone else says something, but I just wanted to let you folks know that we're here to help through this resolution, provide information on any questions that there might be. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. James. Vikram.
Sure. Can I be heard?
Sure. Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Thanks, commissioners and commissioners-elect, for considering this. I'm a co-facilitator of Adams Morgan for Reasonable Development, one of the plaintiffs. And the question I had was just simply, perhaps to Ted or John, if you could help clarify what could be the impact of failing to pass this. And I could provide some information if appropriate there.
As with anything, we're never clear what a resolution by the ANC does. Sometimes it seems like it's effective, sometimes it has no impact at all on the government agencies. The thought behind this resolution is that it would provide some further recognition and acknowledgement that there is public support for a substantive determination on the issue of whether or not there's a public easement on SunTrust Plaza, that as it is currently postured in the court, it would potentially, the litigation would be dismissed, which, although it could be appealed, would likely lead to the imminent construction of the Hoffman proposal on the Sun Plaza space, assuming they want to go through with it. We haven't had any confirmation that although it has been approved, they plan to continue it, given the amount of time that has gone on and the changes in the world as a result of COVID, for example. So it potentially, by passing this resolution, potentially Attorney General Racine would be more likely to step in and assert that the easement exists and should be respected. And if that's the case, I think the resolution would definitely be of advantage to the neighborhood as a whole in providing that any building that's done be respectful of the easement, which the current proposal is not. If it is not passed, I don't know whether there will be any substantive impact on Racine's office or on the court by its non-passing. It seems to me that this is one of those things that is win-win for the neighborhood by passing it, in that it doesn't preclude further determination down the line of what gets built on the site. It just keeps it open for a substantive determination as to the existence of the public easement, which I think is something that is very worthwhile for the neighborhood in general.
Vikram, I see you raised your hand again. Do you have something you want to ask as a follow-up?
Sure, and I'll just contribute also. Thank you, Ted. Nobody has wanted this plaza to sit in increasing decay for the last years. And that's really what this vote, to me, is a signal of. If we're bounced out of court on a technicality regarding our standing next month, the chances, I personally would be committed to appealing that. I believe we have every right to actually have this heard on the merits, and that the Attorney General shouldn't have to step in. But it would certainly make this case about who gets to bring the case and not about, is there an easement? And so really, to me, the heart of the matter of whether or not you vote yes on this resolution is, do you want to just see this thing resolved on the merits? If Racine steps in, it will be. If he doesn't, we don't know, and it could get tangled up in litigation again for years to see who has the right to bring that case. And already, SunTrust has committed a real harm to our neighborhood, because when the preliminary injunction was issued back in 2017, Judge Edelman was very clear, let's get this done quickly. And he put it on an accelerated track so that we would have had a decision potentially by the spring of 18, and we could have had some wonderful, new possibility there already. But that they have tangled this up in litigation, dropping plaintiffs, kicking it over to federal court. Federal court now kicked it back to Superior Court, and it's been 3.5 years. And so nobody wants that to continue, I don't think, especially, with the bank itself moving out and moving across the street. We've already had an increase in, homelessness on that corner. We need to sort of, I hope, come together as a community and say, look, we've got to just get this case resolved so that we can create something, whatever is appropriate, that's good there. And, having this case heard on the merits is the shortest route to doing that. So I just want to contribute that and just say, I implore you all to, consider, what it would feel like for the next few years to be walking by that site with nothing going on there versus something really positive. Thanks.
Thanks, Vikram. Peter Wood.
Hi, thanks, Mayor. So I'll be quick, well, quickish. I mean, this has gone, like Vikram said, has been in discussion for quite a long time, so I don't want to, rekindle too much. But I do have actually a question. I'm not sure who would be best directed to, but or at least I'll make some statements, and please correct me, anyone who knows better, to do so. It seems that if I'm not mistaken, the Attorney General has no obligation to actually take any action. This would just be a proposal for the ANC to suggest that the public, in this case, and ANC 1C favors doing so. And also, I'm a bit concerned. I'm not sure to what degree that concern goes, but I'm a bit concerned because it seems, if history is any indicator, that the mayor and the administration, which would include the Attorney General, are favor, the developer side of things, especially the ones that have often been accused of being a bit detached from neighborhood interests. So I wonder if would there be any impediment to, for example, the Attorney General getting involved, which, to what degree it would extend the process chronologically, we don't know, but getting involved and, for example, fast forward, there is an easement, the public, which is the District of Columbia, and not the plaintiffs, has the right to this plaza space and then just sells the space right back to the developer. Is that a possibility? So I guess those are my two concerns. I'll stop there.
I'm not sure I understand the second one. You're suggesting that after litigation, which establishes the easement, that the district would cede that easement back to the developers?
Yes. I'm just I'm maybe being a bit cynical.
Why is not imagine
yes, go ahead.
The public policy point of view that any district government official would suggest returning the easement to the developer or to the owner of the property, let's say, subject to being developed, give back a right that is something that is pretty significant and substantial as far as use of space. That really just doesn't make any sense to me that would ever happen, regardless of the amount that they might offer. I think the political pressure against them doing that would just be too severe and too substantial.
Yeah, I understand that, but it is legally possible, right?
It's possible that the city could sell Colorama Park. I don't think that's likely. The first question, though, I'm not sure I understood what the question was. You said two parts, and the second part was selling back the easement. What's the first part?
It was more of a statement. Just there's no obligation that the Attorney General doesn't have to be involved.
No. That's definitely the Attorney General doesn't have to, and has so far not expressed a willingness to. The whole point of this resolution is to provide him with further encouragement to do that. Whether or not that's successful, who knows? We regularly pass things that are sort of sense of the ANC resolutions asking for government intervention, and don't get the government intervention that we're requesting, but at least they will consider it if there is a ANC resolution.
That helps, thanks. I just thought of a clearer way to put what I was saying. Anyway, just to kind of recap, the Attorney General has had the opportunity to intervene, but for whatever reason has chosen not to this point. And also there's nothing legally impeding, although it would be politically disadvantageous in the case that they were to get involved, for them to take the side opposite of the people, in this case, the plaintiffs in this resolution, or in this lawsuit.
I'd say that's a fair summary. He's certainly not required to do so. This is intended to encourage him to do so.
Got it.
And once the easement is established, there's a whole range of questions as to how that would be effectuated and what sort of development would be possible. At that point, it seems very likely to me that the bank owners might be interested in transferring title for, whatever amount the property is still worth after the establishment of an easement, back to the city, for the city to make some determination about what goes there, whether it would be low-income housing or a public library or some other sort of public usage of that space that is in what I consider to be the real heart of Adams Morgan, and that would provide a sort of keystone to our business district.
Yeah, thanks for your clarification.
Let's take some additional comments, questions. Aaron?
Yes, so I live in 1C08 off of 16th and U. I don't know why we're still talking about doing this. It's clear the Attorney General doesn't want to do it. It's also clear that this is not in the best interest. Like, I don't think that this is what people voted the ANC to do, to spend all their time talking about SunTrust. I mean, it's been, God, I mean, I've been living in this area in this particular ANC since February of 2017. And I think that you all have been talking about this all this time. And while it's interesting that, this is such a focus, I don't think it's worth the time that's been spent on it. I mean, I've dialed into calls and, I've heard people talk about tree boxes at this location and, for an hour or so on end. And this is not really what, people want. I mean, we're having like businesses go out, Smoke and Barrel this week went out of business, or they're planning and they're letting people know, hey, we're going to have to vacate our property, and that, this is, we're going to have to pull back. I would hope that the ANC would be spending time talking about supporting the existing businesses. This bank obviously doesn't want to be there anymore. They obviously want to sell it. They obviously want to make a profit, and they always want to bring housing and other mixed development into the area. And I wholeheartedly support it. And I don't understand why people have been arguing about this for several years. I don't want this to be this constant, idea that, Adams Morgan is only about this one parcel of land, when there's an entire block, an entire community that is also in need of much, much more attention. I mean, I don't want this pandemic to end and us still be talking about a bank that doesn't want to be there, while there are businesses that do, and it doesn't seem like we're focusing on them and their interests. Yes, it would be great if we had, everything that we want, but without the Attorney General backing us, without public interest, except for people who are on this call, who dial in and who are interested in this particular issue, I don't think it's worth the time. And I would like it if there were a lot more conversation about what else is going on in the community, other than focusing on this particular issue all the time. Like, it seems like it just does not stop.
Thank you, Aaron, for your comments.
Would I also just be able to maybe provide some health information that SunTrust and BB&T are
Thank you, Commissioner Dundee. Yeah, that's very helpful. And there's a BB&T bank, so it's the combination of BB&T and SunTrust that's creating Truist, and on the northeast corner, right diagonally across from this plaza, is a BB&T branch. So that will be a Truist branch, and this one will close. So Vikram, you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I'll just say that I wholeheartedly agree with the gentleman who was speaking to the frustration about how long this has gone on for and how much energy has had to go into it. The bank had the option, after the preliminary injunction was issued in the summer of 17, to just say, okay, 4,000 square feet of this 16,000 square foot parcel, the community can have it. Let's build the other 12,000 square feet and make our money and leave. They didn't do that. They've tied this up for years now. We certainly, like as a community, haven't sought this fight. They've brought it to us over and over and over at every turn with expensive legal maneuvers. And so I could not agree more. I would have loved to have been done with this years ago and focused on other things. You know, this is part of the strategy. Is we're a big company, we could just keep signing checks to lawyers and waste the community's time and wear out public interest and goodwill towards the whole effort. And that's part of the strategy. So I just implore you all to not sort of buckle to that strategy. This is a very simple matter. You know, at the end of the day, the bank that created it promised it in writing. And we have evidence that the first judge was very clear was a strong case. And we just want that case heard. Thanks.
Thanks, Vikram. Okay, any other comments or hands raised from members of the public?
There's Amir, there's a question in the Q&A. This is Tara Wyrick. Has the ANC written or provided any statement to the city that they are in strong support of preserving the plaza?
We did have the resolution about supporting a public library being in that area. And so, I mean, I don't know what you were going to say, Amir, but that comes to mind for me. We drafted a resolution and passed unanimously a resolution in support of a public library being where SunTrust is right now. And I'm still very much in support of that. And I would hope that there's still a path forward for that. And I think, you know, the reason why I am, sorry to use this as a time to make a comment, but I mean, I agree with what Aaron said as well. You know, like, I think this is taking a really long time. Nobody in the community really wants to have an extended period of time where we're talking about the plaza and all this, but we all just want a better public space, and that's what we're trying to get right now. And I think, you know, this is an opportunity for us to decide whether or not we're going to try to entice, in a way, the government to buy this land and actually develop it into a public library, hopefully. And I would hope that this is a pathway forward for that. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Dundee. Yeah, so to expand on that, this ANC has passed a resolution about advocating for a public library on that site. I've heard of, and that was about a year ago. I think it was July of 2019. It was unanimous. It didn't say whether it could only be a library on that site or a library on the first level and housing above it. But it did just advocate for a library on the site. Prior ANCs had passed resolution, prior terms of ANC 1C. So prior iterations of our commission have passed resolutions related to SunTrust. Commissioner Guthrie, would you like to elaborate on those? I think they were before my time even.
I was having trouble unmuting. Yeah, the only resolutions that we had passed in the prior iterations had to do with development and specifics of the development of the site, because we're not parties to the litigation and would not be appropriate parties to the litigation. And we have been supportive of efforts to ensure that the zoning codes and the historic preservation rules are complied with and dealt with issues that related to that in both BZA and to HPRB. And that's what the resolutions had been addressed to before this. We haven't officially come out in support of a substantive resolution to the litigation before this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Guthrie, for elaborating on that. Mr. James, Dennis James, I see you have your hand up.
I raised my hand before.
Is there something you want to say? Okay.
Amir, I would just like to, before I make a motion or before anyone makes a motion, I would like to point out that the commission did receive emails from Celeste, the incoming commissioner for 1C02, Zach Gold, the incoming commissioner for 1C05, Ben Butts, the commissioner for 1C07, as well as Peter Wood, the incoming commissioner for 1C03, asking that we table this measure and that this new upcoming commission take it up in January, which I think in terms of process could make sense if we did add this again to the PZT agenda, noting that the new commission, obviously would be composed of two current commissioners. So that being said, I would like to make a motion to table this for the January meeting.
And I'll second that.
So we call to a vote. All those in favor, as a motion to table is not debatable. All those in favor of tabling the resolution, please indicate so by saying, I think we may need a roll call, but please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye. Could we just do roll call? Or
Sure.
I motion to roll call.
Sure. So we'll go from, we'll start with Commissioner Jackson, 1C08.
Aye.
Commissioner Bowles.
Table, please.
Okay. Commissioner Dendy.
Nay.
Commissioner Zatoli.
No.
Commissioner Guthrie.
No.
And for myself, I vote to table it. So that's 3-3. So the motion fails.
I would just like to point out that in discussions, last minute discussions, part of the reason that I made the friendly amendment to eliminate the last portion was so that ANC could be on record in sufficient time to have some impact on Attorney General Racine. And as the resolution has been pared down to simply that, there is no reason that it needs to be postponed until the first of the year. You will have adequate opportunity to deal with all the other stuff that may come out of this situation in the new year. The problem is that we need to get something into the Attorney General post haste in order for it to at least potentially have an impact. And I discussed the matter with John Zatoli, and I also believe that I heard back from incoming commissioner about that they supported that. and that the point of tabling it was to make sure that sort of long-range decisions were actually handled by the new ANC, but that we need to get on record with this resolution as amended tonight in order for it to have the hopeful impact that it would have on the Attorney General. So I'm glad to see that the table motion was defeated, and I think it's important that we move forward to a vote to authorize the resolution so that we can potentially have the Attorney General get involved in this.
Thank you, Commissioner Guthrie, for that. Commissioner, oh, we have one hand up there. Alan, go right ahead.
Am I on?
Yep, you're on.
Thanks. Yeah, I would just add one thing to what Commissioner Guthrie just said, and it's in response to one of the comments that was made before. I'm a fairly regular participant or attendee, I guess, at these ANC meetings. And while I recognize that the subject has been discussed for quite some time, I don't believe that the subject has taken up a great deal of ANC time, even though it has been on the table, shall we say, for a considerable amount of time. This issue may have been pending for 2 or 3 years, but I don't believe, based upon the number of meetings that I've sat through, that it has actually consumed a great deal of ANC time. And the observation that I would make is that you're dealing with a parcel of land that sits right in the heart of our neighborhood. It's probably the most significant piece of land that will be potentially developed right in the heart of our neighborhood over the course of the next several years. And while I recognize that certainly we're concerned about what's going on in the immediate future with regard to businesses in the neighborhood and with regard to public health and public safety in the neighborhood, I think it's perfectly appropriate for the ANC to concern itself with what might happen to that parcel of land over the next 20 or 25 years. And so if it's important for the ANC to act on something that has a pressing deadline on it for the Attorney General to make a decision as to whether or not he's going to intervene in a case by early January, I certainly don't think that taking 30 minutes of time in an ANC meeting is an excessive use of time. So I just put that on the table for your consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, and to Alan's point, I just think that we need more discussion on this. And I think that if we were able to table this at least to another PZT meeting, that we would be able to work out more specifics. We have basically an entire new ANC commission that was voted on by folks this past November, and they have a prerogative and they have ideas, and they will be the ones that will be, if we pass this tonight, they're the ones that are going to have to deal with the consequences of it. So I think that, you know, I mean, pretty much all of the new commissioners are already on this call. I think that we could have a really thoughtful PZT committee meeting and make a resolution that makes sense for the entire commission and for the next 2 terms, looking at the future.
I would just like to say that when I ran for ANC 2 years ago, this was a question that came up when I was running, that people would ask me about the plaza. So, I mean, my point is just that it has been an issue for 2 years. When I went around and canvassed my neighborhood, people knew about this issue. I did talk to people about it. I think that people did have a lot of opportunity to think about this issue and what they thought about it. And I do think we've had ample time to discuss it, and that right now we should just try to do as much as we can to get a library where our community deserves one. And the way to do that is to move this forward and not to stall it longer.
Commissioner Zatoli, you have your hand up.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to report on the most recent feedback that we got from Zach Gold and Celeste Carano. This is part of the email chain that Commissioner Bowles referred to. Yes, Zach and Celeste originally took the position that they wanted the new ANC, the January ANC, to take up this issue. But when our friends from the Kalorama Citizens Association explained about the urgency of needing to press the Attorney General to get involved, Zach came back at 5:09 p.m. with a note that that said that, well, if we do take up this issue tonight, we ought to strip the be it further resolved part where we talk about the, whether we want to use the space as a library or whatnot. But he was amenable to the friendly amendment that Commissioner Guthrie ended up proposing, namely that we just ask the AG to help us get that easement. And then Commissioner-elect Serrano seconded Zach's proposal. So I think the sentiment, as best as I can read the email chain on this issue, is that, we've got lots of different ideas about what to do with that space. And certainly I'm looking forward to hearing what the new commissioners, the January ANC wants to do with the space. But for now, I think there is consensus that at least we ought to just start with saying to the Attorney General, help us get the easement. And beyond that, what the commission does with that easement, what the community does with that easement, that's for somebody else to decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zatoli. A few other hands, including Megan Faulkner, incoming commissioner.
Hi, I just wanted to ask a question and clarify a few things, which is I personally am concerned that, the Attorney General getting involved would only prolong the litigation and wouldn't really lead to a quicker resolution, and seeing SunTrust, not be a vacant corner as it is imminently about to be. And also there was some talk about the easement and a library. And my understanding is that because the easement is only about a portion of the area, that an easement wouldn't necessarily mean that it will be any easier to potentially build a library on that site. And I don't know if that is correct, but my understanding would be that having the easement for only a portion of the site would not necessarily make it any easier to get a library or any other sort of public building on that site. So I don't know if anyone can speak to that, but that is one thing. And I think also, it is an issue that I think comes up a lot in the neighborhood. And I've heard from a lot of people that they feel that the lawsuit has been detrimental to the community's ability to actually really negotiate or to do anything other than be really tied up in court and taken a really long time. And so I just wanted to say that I think there are a lot of opinions on both sides, but that there are a lot of folks who are concerned that this is going to lead to a vacant a vacant spot right in the middle of our neighborhood, and will not actually lead to it's not clear that this will lead to an outcome that any of us are particularly excited about. So I just wanted to say that.
Just to clarify on the issue of the speed with which this gets resolved, I think you heard from one of the plaintiffs that it is likely that if the case is dismissed and the temporary restraining order is lifted, that there will be an appeal. If the appeal goes forward, there would be a prolonged period of time during which it would be difficult for Hoffman or any other developer to go in and develop, because it would be subject to a potential easement that they would potentially have to tear down part of the structure that they had built, at least. So it seems that, as Vikram was saying, the most likely way to get a firm resolution of this is to advocate on behalf of the Attorney General office that they get involved in this, at which point the standing issue goes away. The only issue that's remaining is the substantive issue of whether or not there's an easement. This had previously been within 1 month of actually having a determinative hearing when it got removed to federal court by the defendant. So it seems to me that the most expeditious way to get this resolved in the short term is to get the Attorney General involved, who has some clout and will be able to be more effective perhaps in advocating for the existence of the easement. And once the easement is determined to exist, then there will have to be some determination as to what happens with the site. And as I said, at least one of the possibilities would be that the district would purchase the rest of the site because the rest of the site would be worth substantially less. So from a speed point of view, it would not be a speedier resolution to vote against this current resolution, because in that case, it's very likely to wind up going to appellate court. And as we all know or should know, appellate courts can take their time getting things resolved. As far as whether it actually winds up getting to be a library on that site or some other true public use, the only way forward with that is if in fact there is an easement, then the currently authorized building, which could be put up the minute the thing comes down if they decide to do it, it has nothing to do with the library. And if you want to have any other alternative use for that site other than high-end condos with some sort of commercial space in the first floor, you need to vote in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Guthrie. All right, we have another hand up. Dennis?
Hi, Dennis James here again. I'm totally alive to the concern of incoming commissioners, plus the two who will be carryover commissioners into the new term, that it makes a lot of sense to, have them be totally involved in the questions. But if this question doesn't get answered yes tonight, then there's much less chance that they will have any input, because if the Kalorama citizens and Adams Morgan for reasonable development are dismissed from the case, the PI, the preliminary injunction, could easily go away. Probably would, almost certainly would, even though we're appealing. And the site can be raised. Now that will be really ugly. But we'll be in court. And, I think one of our options would be to enjoin the possibility of construction, which would be paving over what we think is a public easement. So, if the Attorney General became involved, then there would be a lot of things on the new ANC's plate. If, the politics of it gets a chance to work its way out, seeing that these ANC, sought that the site would become a public library. And since that has been played, not that site, but a facilities committee of the public library system has listed Adams Morgan as a location now for a branch library, we could do politics, and hopefully achieve that location as the choice. And we could have the amount of plaza that is considered to be the easement and then the building behind it in a similar way, but much more attractive, modern, nice landscaping and room for farmers market and other events, which have taken place since 1977. This was the first farmers market in the city. It was recognized as that. The DC Council had to pass special legislation to allow it because there was actually legislation on the books that you couldn't do that. Anyway, I really do think that there'll be much for the next ANC to do if we get some help. And of course, we're going to fight the notion that we're not the right group to bring the case. But we don't know if we'll be successful because, you know, a higher court said that we don't have the right. We most likely have constitutional standing, but we don't have prudential. Well, we're not sure that those kind of issues are, you know, we don't think it's uncertain that tighter definition of standing applies in Superior Court. So we're going to do our best arguments that we can. I'm not a lawyer, you know, that's why we have lawyers working with us. So anyway, I mean, I really do believe there'll be plenty for the ANC to get involved with. If we totally lose the case, then there'll be a luxury condo, as Ted said, you know, with no affordable housing, 5 inclusionary zoning units, and no plaza at all. Nothing. So anyway, that's it for right now. Hello?
Okay.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was even still connected because I got disconnected once. So anyway, I would really plead with the commission to approve this amended resolution. Thank you.
Great. So I'm just, there was a note about including the Owen letter in the resolution because I saw that both Dennis, you had sent me an email about including that letter. Also, or rather attaching that letter to the end of the resolution. So,
well, it said, the resolution said that it was there. And
yeah.
I noticed that it wasn't.
Right. So I just took the time to attach it to that. I think now if people click on the updated link, maybe you can find it. Let me just, 1 second.
Hey, Amir, Commissioner-elect Ben Butts is also raising his hand.
Oh, yeah. While I do this, if you don't mind, could you, Commissioner-elect Butts, please go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much. I just really wanted to add the reason that I was requesting that this get tabled to the next month really has nothing to do with the merits of it, but really looking at the timing. What I'm concerned about is when I read the resolution that if it had said just for this to have Attorney General Racine in his office look at this to see if they determine and get a proper response if they would want to participate in this case or not, I wouldn't have a problem. But from everything that I've researched and just from the conversation tonight, hearing that this that we have not taken a position previously and if we were supporting this lawsuit or not, I just don't think it's appropriate without any real discussion to move forward on a decision that is basically saying that we support this lawsuit. And I, right now at this point, I don't have a real strong opinion one way or the other if we should support it or not, if that's the right choice. But I do think it's a choice that should be made deliberately and not just because there's pressure. And so I think the focusing on the time and not what the actual resolution is saying is a concern to me. And that's why I would support tabling it. Thank you.
So just to be clear, focusing on the time for the timing, is that what you meant?
Yes. So I'm concerned more about that it's not we're making the decision. The conversation tonight has been mostly on, we need to make a decision because if we wait, we won't have an ability to weigh in on if we should have the Attorney General step in and request that he steps in if we wait till January. But the resolution isn't saying that. The resolution is saying that we are asking the Attorney General to defend this position. It's not asking if they should weigh in, if they should participate or not. We're actively, the resolution is actively saying that it should support this, and that's something that this commission has never taken a stance on. Just from the conversation that I've heard. I mean, there's been requests for the library and things like that on, but it doesn't sound like the actual lawsuit and the merits of it has been a topic in conversation. And obviously, if there has been, I've not participated in that, and I apologize for the mistake. But to me, we're actually making a decision on the merits of if we want to support the case or not with the resolution as it's written right now. We're not just asking if we want the Attorney General to step in or not. Or
okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Ben. Alan, go right ahead.
I'm going to say something to Commissioner-elect Butts that no sitting commissioner currently needs to say, and I'll put on my old man hat as a former chairman of the commission. Commissioner Butts, get used to it, because for the next 24 months, you're going to be making those decisions on the spur of the moment, every single meeting, where you're going to be faced with a deadline that you have to meet in order to have the ANC's position taken into consideration. It's going to happen over and over and over again. So without prejudice and without regard to this particular issue, this is just a function of how the ANCs in this town have to operate all the time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alan.
Can I respond to that?
Sure, of course.
I would just say that this is an issue that apparently this commission has been talking about for years. And if they wanted to make a weigh-in and make a decision, I don't understand why they're waiting until this very last minute to make that decision.
Well, it's just because a court decided that on January 12th, I think that was the date. That's the date that this is going to come up. And last month, the commission didn't know that.
Was there anything prohibiting the commission in the last 3 years from supporting this?
No, there wasn't. And we also had word about, there was a whole Washington Post article at the end of September where there could have been more process and more feedback and before a lame duck session.
Okay, so, and another point is just, if the hearing is January 12th, then our incoming commissioners can vote on it, and this can be considered at the December committee meeting, and then our incoming commissioners can vote on it at their meeting on January 6th. And it's not that the plaintiffs would have to wait to engage Carl Racine's office, but isn't it true that the plaintiffs could engage Carl Racine's office the entire time? Because this will be an iterative process from committee to the incoming ANC voting on it. Everyone will still be involved, including the incoming commissioners. So I don't see how, we could also postpone this and have the two vacant seats, have those single member districts represented, and have those commissioners that will represent those voters vote on this at our January 6th meeting. And I don't see the urgency in bringing this up right this very moment. I can see how.
I guess you haven't been involved in negotiations before, but negotiations to get a bureaucracy to do something take more than 6 days.
But the negotiations can take place and have been taking place.
Absent having an ANC solution, it's not going to have a significant difference in Racine's office position.
And also, a motion to table has already failed. I just wanted.
I think we should go ahead and vote on the substance and see where we come out.
Yeah, so are there any other comments from commissioners?
I mean, I would just say that our commission voted on our support of a public library in this space, and that additionally, all of the emails that I received from constituents about this topic had to, I mean, at one point or another, people stated that, you know, basically this has been an issue that has been returned to over many years. Litigation took many years. People want a resolution, and, you know, I do too. And I also think that, you know, people have said that they want more housing in Adams Morgan for like lower income tenants. And I don't think that luxury housing with 5 units that are affordable for people at 80% AMI is going to be helpful for people who are trying to move into Adams Morgan and are low income. So I think if we really want to help people who live in this neighborhood, it's not going to be housing that is still unaffordable and pretends to be affordable for people who are trying to move in this neighborhood. It's going to be a public library with resources that we need. And that, you know, we have the opportunity to take a stance on this today, right now, and we don't need to wait later, another month in next year to do that. And I think we could just do that right now. And if we are really committing to having a public library in this space, that we can open up the door at least. Like, of course, we don't really know what's going to happen next, but we can at least open the door to that possibility if we do make a decision on this today. So I hope that we can do that.
I would also point out that any action we take tonight can at least theoretically be dealt with again at the January meeting if the commission believes that it's important to do that. But to me, this is one of those things where the ANC is going to act, it needs to act now. If you act in January, it's likely to have no impact at all. We have a small enough chance of having an impact. We need to do it tonight.
And you think, Commissioner Guthrie, just to your last comment about if we don't act now, then it will have no impact at all. If we don't act now and we work, put this through committee, and everyone is, including the incoming commissioners, is involved in crafting that resolution so that they can vote on it from an informed perspective in January 6th, then seeing that happening, right? It's not that on January 7th, the plaintiffs can go to Carl Racine. They don't have to wait until then. They can keep his office updated and say along the way that, look, there is a resolution, it's coming through committee. The ANC will vote on it on January 6th. I don't see how, I mean, there's 6 days to January 12th.
That is theoretically possible. I don't know. I've been a lawyer. I know how long it takes lawyers to make decisions on things. I'm sorry, but 6 days is not enough for the AG office to weigh in. If the new ANC in their wisdom decide that this decision was inappropriate, they can rescind it as of the 6th, and then we'll move on from there. But I think we should give the shot at getting the Attorney General's office involved by affirming the neighborhood's interest at this point in time in having the AG come in and be actively involved in this litigation. And that's all that this does. It doesn't do anything with what happens down the line with that. It's totally open for the new ANC to make whatever determination they may make about that. But substantively, it seems, I just can't believe that when neighbors over a period of 40 years have worked to provide a public space for the community and to assert the ability of the community to have meetings in that space, that it is appropriate to say, no, you guys are off base. We have a better idea. And the better idea is to build luxury condos on that site, which I think voting against this resolution functionally says. And I just think that would be a horrible mistake for the ANC. and for Adams Morgan in general.
I'd also say that, I mean, in terms of your position, Amir, like I sort of came into this meeting with your position, and I understand where you're coming from, and you know, I understand that you want more people to be involved. The new commissioners will be here, like in their seats, but I think that, like as Ted said, like we'll have the opportunity, or the commission will have the opportunity in January to make a decision, and that, you know, if we do want to commit to having a public space and a public library, that there is a path to doing that right now, and there wouldn't. It seems to me that there isn't a path to do that if we don't do anything right now. It would just seem like, oh, we might just toss it in the air, and there might be luxury condos and there might not be, but we're not sure. And at least with this resolution, we can at least say, yeah, we do want a public space for our community, and that we give the option of the DC government to acquire this land and like commit it to a public library space. So, you know, I would just say, you know, like let's at least have the option for our community to figure that out, I guess.
Can I just make a clarifying statement regarding the resolution for the libraries? I worked with Michaela and Bridget Pooley, former commissioners, for that resolution. And the resolution was in response to DC Public Library asking which communities should want a library. And much like the public restroom debate that we had previously, we responded saying Adams Morgan wants a library. We request it. We have all of the resources to handle it. Please do so. A second and amendment to that was, here's a possible place to put it in SunTrust Plaza. The resolution to me as a sponsor was never about SunTrust Plaza. The resolution was about getting a library in Adams Morgan. SunTrust Plaza just happened to be another space that we included into that. I would also like to note that Dennis James was against that resolution and is now using that as a reason to keep the space for these current commissioners. I just don't, this next commission does not agree with the second therefore clause. And that's kind of what this is going towards. The second therefore clause is asking Carl Racine to do every single thing that they possibly can to make this space stay as a public space. And this next commission, which was duly elected by the voters and the residents of our neighborhood, resoundingly rejected that. Every competitive race, the next ANC commissioner has said, no, we want to go the different direction, except for Chris Jackson's race, because he's in favor of tabling this. So I just don't.
And to your point, this is 75% of the ANC that's been elected.
And thank you. And that, if we pass this now, my thought is we're going to pass something that is different in January or February. So I don't want us, if there is anything to add to a lawsuit, to me, if I was an attorney and I got a 3-3, a yes and no, and well, I don't think actually a resolution passes with a 3-3. But if I was to even get a 4-2, how
right, a 3-3
of an argument?
Commissioner Bowles. Can I offer an amendment?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Commissioner Guthrie?
It's not my amendment to be happy about, sorry.
So the first be it resolved to change to that ANC 1C calls for prompt resolution of the public easement case on the merits, and specifically requests that Carl Racine, the district's attorney general, use the full powers of his office and all applicable legal forums to clear the way for development of the plaza site in a timely way.
To the extent that you're changing the emphasis from the...
So what I'm trying to do here is take it so that what we're very clearly requesting is that Carl Racine promptly resolve the question of the public easement case and remove some of the other language, because I think that's something we could probably get a 6-0 vote on, right? Have Carl, and there would be a lot more agreement here to have Carl Racine and have the district resolve this question of whether there is a public easement and do it in a fast manner, and then remove the second be it resolved. So there is only the one be it resolved.
Well, the way that you articulated it made it sound like Carl Racine's charge would be to resolve the easement case as expeditiously as possible, rather than to actively involve himself in support of the legal position that there is an existing easement.
So maybe that ANC 1C specifically requests that Carl Racine, the district's attorney general, use the full powers of his office to seek a prompt resolution of the plaza public easement case on the merits, clearing the way for development of the plaza site in a timely way. How about that? Does that sound a little bit more clear?
Say that once more, please.
That ANC 1C specifically requests that Carl Racine, the district's attorney general, use the full powers of his office to seek a prompt resolution of the plaza public easement case on the merits, clearing the way for development of the plaza site in a timely way. So it's specifically requesting that Carl Racine get involved, use the full powers of his office to seek a prompt resolution of the plaza public easement case on the merits.
Hey, Amir, I'm sorry. I don't really know what that means. I don't really know what that amendment, could you further explain or explain in a different way as to what the intent of that would be? I'm sorry.
So to solve this question of whether there is an easement, as opposed to a procedural move, which is what's going on, right? Shifting this to federal court and then trying to get out of this with a procedural move, to me doesn't seem right. So to solve this and to seek a resolution about the easement question, it gets Carl Racine involved to seek a resolution on that easement question and to do it as fast as possible, so that it clears the way for development of the plaza in a timely way, in a timely manner. I think that the spirit of that is in line with what this ANC has voted on in the past with the library. Nobody here wants to see this site mothballed for a long time or see ongoing litigation. I mean, if this goes through a procedural move, then the plaintiffs will appeal and this whole process will keep being drawn out. So I don't want to see that. I'd like to see the easement question resolved.
What I'm not clear about, Amir, is what your proposed language does to resolve the issue that I thought I was hearing was that the ANC needs to take more time to figure out whether it supports the existence of a public easement.
Hello. What was that? There was some static or there was some other chatter.
I don't see how your proposal eliminates the issue that it's my understanding, at least some of the commissioners have, with the ANC supporting, well, this resolution doesn't actually say it supports the litigation. It's, as it's written, it calls for prompt resolution of the public easement case on the merits. It specifically requests that Carl Racine use the powers of his office to defend the easement by public dedication on the plaza.
Defend the easement.
Sorry.
So what I'm saying is that I don't think that your proposed language operates to fix the problem that I'm hearing articulated, which is that there seem to be some commissioners who believe that the ANC's position should be that there is no public easement. And that's what my understanding of the objections to this resolution are. That somehow this is a precipitous determination by the ANC that there is a public easement. And that somehow the commissioners believe that the ANC itself should be making a legal determination in order to decide to support the resolution on the merits of the easement case. Maybe I'm not understanding what they're saying, but my understanding is that they do not want to support a resolution that at least implicitly supports the existence of an easement on the plaza, and that is their substantive reason for saying no to the resolution. And I don't think your language fixes that.
It's not meant to fix that. What it is meant to do, though, is to.
I don't think it's helpful to pass a resolution that does not support Racine taking a position. And if he takes a position in the litigation, it would be to support the existence of the easement. There's no reason that he would take a position otherwise, because he, unless he believes there's an easement in existence, he wouldn't take up the case. I don't know. Like I say, this is something that has been public use for 40 some years as a result of activities over a prolonged period of time, that I'm really appalled that ANC 1C would consider that it was not worthwhile to go forth with this litigation to attempt to get a substantive resolution from the courts on whether or not there is in fact a public easement. I just don't get that substantive. I think it would be a disservice to the community if we did that, but I'm
so I think to better enlighten that point, I would consider Adams Morgan the Ward 3 of Ward 1 in terms of affordable housing. And to Damiana's point, yes, this would be luxury condos. And there, in the past developments, there were 5 IZ units. I presume the next developer or P. and Hoffman would give us a new project. And I would hope that the council member and council, who is the one who has authority over the percentage of IZ units, would have increased that so it is more than 5. However, luxury units, I live in a luxury unit that is 12 years old. And that's kind of what Adams Morgan is. I feel like we use luxury units as a way to NIMBY things to death. And we have an affordable housing crisis. We also have a housing crisis. And there needs to be more homes, not just affordable housing, but for all incomes. And do I want there to be more affordable housing? Yes. I am a supporter of the Returning Citizens program in my single member district and affordable housing all through my single member district. And actually, when we look at affordable housing, it is in Reed Cook. It's not in other parts of the district. And so when you talk about really any opportunity of growth, it is SunTrust Plaza. And what I think that this new commission and the community at large who overwhelmingly voted them in is to say, we want something special here. And this continued litigation is not going to get us that. It's not. A great conversation and working with the council is what's going to get us more housing there. And I think a key part of, and I'm glad that you nixed the third, is that having as a priority for that space, not just the space, but we want to have more housing there. And so I think that's why we have so many future commissioners that are apprehensive about this, is because this current commission's priority is different from this next commission's priority, and is different from what the neighborhood recently voted folks in to be. So I think that I would like to make a motion to nix the second therefore clause. And if it's friendly, I would welcome that. If not, I would like to make that motion.
I mean, I would just like to respond to that. I mean, I think we also said when we were voted in, we were also different from the last commission. I don't know if that's relevant here. I don't think it is. Like every commission is going to be different. I think that's just irrelevant to like this discussion. I also think that housing is not a supply and demand situation. And also this SunTrust Plaza is not about housing. It's about a public space. We're not talking about housing right now. Like we're not talking about luxury apartments. It doesn't really matter if this is called luxury or it's just regular apartments. It's what percentage of AMI are these apartments going to be? And the fact is that 5 of these apartments are going to be 80% AMI, and that's not affordable by any means. So like we're not actually talking about affordability right now, and we're not talking about a housing crisis, because a housing crisis does not have to do with supply and demand. So I think what we should focus on is what we are voting on today, which is whether or not we want the OAG to be involved in the public easement, not whether or not PN Hoffman is going to build luxury apartments where SunTrust Bank right now stands. And again, like the library resolution that we passed, of course, like SunTrust Plaza was not the main issue of this resolution, but I mean, essentially it was, because we were talking about a public library being on that space, knowing that SunTrust Plaza is a, you know, controversial area basically right now. And it would be a really, honestly, good space for a library. I mean, the entire resolution was basically like when Bridget was a commissioner here, Commissioner Pooley, I mean, was talking about how far away all of the other libraries were from SunTrust Plaza, which is the middle of Adams Morgan, which like she made that map about. So I think like to say that that resolution was not about SunTrust Plaza is actually not entirely correct, because that the library being there was actually crucial to that resolution. So I think we need to think about resolutions that we already passed. We need to think about how this is actually not about supplying housing, and this is actually about the issue at hand, which is exactly, do we want the OAG to be involved? Do we not? Do we want the people who are doing this litigation for the past 2 years to move forward with this or not? And I think we should just take a vote on this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you, Commissioner Dendy. Commissioner Zatoli, you have your hand up.
Thank you. I'd like to come back, Amir, to the friendly that you had suggested. My understanding of what you're saying is that we should ask the Attorney General to take a look at this issue. The current resolution calls for him to intervene in favor of protecting the easement, defending the easement. I'd like him to do that, but maybe a more reasonable approach, and especially if you would support it, I think we should go with it, would be to say to the AG, it's in the court, we need you to take a look at it and act as you think appropriate. And this way we open the door to getting him involved. The advocates can go to him and argue the case for how he should get involved. But at least the ANC wants him to take a look at the issue and decide what to do, decide what's appropriate. And Ted, I'm wondering if that would be enough for us tonight.
At that point, I'm not sure that there's any point in having the resolution, frankly. I would suggest that Commissioner Dendy called the question, I believe, and that we should just go ahead and vote on it and be done with it.
Okay.
I had a motion for the second, therefore, to be removed.
That would not be a friendly, and
okay.
Let's vote on the motion.
Okay. So I second.
And I'll suggest it be by roll call, just so that we're clear.
Sure. Okay. So the motion is to remove the second.
No, the motion is the motion before. It is not a friendly. There was.
Yeah, I withdraw my motion.
The motion is on the resolution, absent what was in the original resolution, the very last portion, but maintaining number 2. So it's just an up or down vote on the resolution.
Okay. Without that final be it further resolved. All right. There is a hand up from a commissioner. No. Okay. All right. All right. We'll start from 1C08. Commissioner Jackson.
Nay.
Okay. Commissioner Bowles.
Nay.
Commissioner Dendy.
Aye.
Commissioner Zatoli.
Yes.
Commissioner Guthrie.
Aye.
And I vote against it. So that's 3-3. The resolution fails. All right. I do suggest that this go through committee and the new ANC can bring it up in the January meeting with sufficient time for this to be taken to Carl Racine's office, to our Attorney General's office. Between now and then, there can be consistent communication as well. So, and that's the final matter for tonight.
Can I make an official motion to reconsider this resolution at the PZT committee meeting in December?
You can reintroduce it. We can add it to the agenda at PZT, and then we can go through everything. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So,
And I'd like to add, hopefully, if the future ANC commissioners can join that meeting, that I think that would be great to have their input.
absolutely. And I think our commissioners-elect have expressed a desire to do that and to be a part of the process. So, and I hope that we will give this a thorough run through along with the rest of the commissioners from our vacant seats that those residents don't have a voice right now. So, all right, that's the final matter for tonight and for this this term for this ANC. So Commissioners Jackson, Zatoli, Dendy, it's been a pleasure. And I will see you around the neighborhood.
Likewise, Amir. Thank you.
Hopefully.
Yeah, thank you all. It's been great working with you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, John. Thanks, Damiana.
Thank you all. It's been such a pleasure.